Good evening, my friends. Good day, my Irish friends. Good to have you all here with us today. It's Wednesday, 13th of October 2021. It's 9 p.m. here in Ireland and London, 10 p.m. in France. It's a pleasure to have you all here with us, our friends from Uruguay, Ruben, thank you for being here with us. From Oregon, USA, Bruce, thank you, Bruce. Brazil, Marisa, good evening, my dear friend.
Good
And
afternoon.
Ruben from Uruguay, and many others who are joining us. I can see the numbers of viewers going up. So today, I would say it's a pleasure to talk about it. It's a wonderful topic. It's the fundamental guidance for life. And we have a lot to talk. That's why I will not prolong here. But I want to say to my friends here, good evening, Charles. Good evening, Elsa. Good evening, Silvia. Hope you're okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. And it's going to be a nice day today, for sure.
Yes.
It's always a great pleasure. Every Wednesday, be together with you all in this beautiful room. Let our hearts amplify our wishes to be with you all in good vibrations and unite our thoughts because we need it the most to have a guidance for our life in a better way with Jesus in our hearts, the lessons of love, forgiveness. So, welcome all, and a great hug to Charles, Silvia, Stevan, because we are brothers and sisters together in the same room. Thank you.
Bonjour à tous, heureux d'être parmi vous de nouveau ce soir pour parler un peu de ces questions toujours liées au sens de la vie. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Happy to be here with all of you. Thanks for joining us and to share some thoughts about the meaning of life, the fundamental guidance for life. Do we want to be happy? Yes. So what do we have to do to get there?
Great. So, good evening to Saul Waters, R. Morley, good evening. Nancy Valente, good evening, my friend. So, without any delay, let me share my screen and let's watch the video we have for today.
If we look to our past too, I think we can say, even if sometimes we're very negative about nowadays, but life's a lot better than it was 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. Where all the beings in this planet will be fundamentally happy. We don't know when that's going to happen. It's probably going to take a big chunk of time, but it will happen. Again, we go back to the idea of God being just and kind and always give us a chance to evolve and grow. So everything is growing and evolving. It's only a matter of time. So we are really reassured and happy and willing and eager to get to that point. And what we will take is each one and all of us putting in our work. It won't just happen miraculously. We have to take the responsibility in our hands. But what a beautiful day will be when all of us, regardless of birth, creed, religion, sexual preference, whatever you want to call it, will be happy. We think we're going to get there.
I believe that diversity is the way. We do have the capacity to understand each other and to tolerate our differences.
In Spiritism, one of the things we have learned is that all of humanity is destined for happiness. All of us is one of the divine natural laws, which is the law of progress, which means that we must move forward. We do not believe in regression. We do not believe that we can go back and undo and unlearn what we have learned.
And that's perhaps one of the most touching pieces about divinity in general, when you think about it, is ultimately we're all condemned to be happy. It is just a matter of how soon will it happen, and that's up to us. Each one of us can do their best in getting there, so we can either speed that up or slow down the process, but we will get there individually and globally as well.
I think, yes, there is chaos, but I think there are more wonderful things going on, good projects, and towards peace, harmony.
The main thing is not to convert anyone. The main thing, the main objective is to make better human beings. If you belong to this religion or to that religion, it doesn't matter.
Well, these videos from Spiritual Academy is amazing. So once again, I cannot stop to say thank you for them for make our life easier here. And good night to Gabriel Inácio Azoli from Sweden. Good to have you here, my dear friend. So, my introduction, I want to ask permission to read a passage from Leon Denis' book. And this book is called Christianity and Spiritism. It's on chapter 7. So, open quotes. No, Christ's mission was not to rescue the crimes of humanity with his blood. Blood, even from God, would not be able to rescue anyone. Each one must rescue himself from ignorance and evil. Nothing outside of us could do it. This is what the spirits, by the thousands, affirm in all parts of the world. From the spheres of light, where all is serenity and peace, Christ descended to our dark and stormy regions to show us the path that leads to God. Such is his sacrifice. The outpouring of love in which men are involved, their identification with them in joys and sufferings, constitute the redemption it offers us and which we are free to accept. Others before him had led people to the path of good and truth. None had done it with the singular sweetness, with the penetrating tenderness that characterizes Jesus' teachings. None of them knew, like him, how to teach to love modest and hidden virtues. Herein lies the power, the moral grandeur of the gospel, the vital element of Christ, which succumbs to the weight, to the strange dogmas with which it has been loaded. So, with this introduction, let's go to France and listen, my friend Charles Kempf. My dear friend, what is the cause of evils that afflict humanity?
Wow, good question, Stevan. And I will have to limit, I think, myself, because 15 minutes, or let's say so, because it could be the subject for a whole lecture for a full hour, because it's a complicated question. It looks simple, but it's complicated. There were several theories about evil. Some theories told, okay, it's coming from God. Others told it's coming from the evil or Satanas or whoever. and then with several theories about Satanas and whatever. I mean, nothing really convincing in all these existing theories. And what's interesting is Spiritism philosophy is bringing a quite different explanation about the evil, which is more understandable. The first thing we have to know is that the definition of good and evil is not what is written in this or that book or in the Bible or in the Gospel or in the Spirit's book or whatever. The definition given by the Spirits is good is all what is in harmony with the laws of nature, and evil is all what is in disharmony with the laws of nature. So you see, the referential is the law of natures, or the divine laws or the natural laws, as you prefer. So it's a definition which is, how to say, neutral, and does not, how to say, it's really a neutral definition, and the referential are the laws of nature that we are discovering by science universally, independently of the religion or the belief. And this is something we can understand. If you do something in disharmony with the laws of nature, for instance, you take a knife and cut your hand, or if you have a hammer and hit on your finger, even without willing, it is something which is, how to say, accessing the capacity of resistance of your skin and of the how to say, the internals of your body, of your finger, and then it is some leakage of blood, and you get a hematome, and you get pain and whatsoever. So this is very well known, and this is then, of course, causing some physical suffering. So now from this, where does the evil come from? That is exactly the question. The evil exists, and it has a cause. So Kardec is discoursing about this subject in the section 3 of the Genesis, which is the good and the evil. That is the title of this section. And he's saying us at the item 4 that the evil can be of several origins. First, there is the physical pain, and second, the moral pain. So these are already a big difference. Then there is another classification he introduces, which is the evil that the human can avoid, and other ones that the human cannot avoid. For instance, earthquake or tsunami or even COVID, these type of things, which are these natural events that we cannot avoid. Now, we have the intelligence, and with this intelligence, humankind can prevent the damages or the disasters or the consequences of them. I give a very simple example. When you have an earthquake of magnitude 7 or 8 in Japan, somewhere, there is very seldomly a building which is collapsing or injuring a lot of people. But when you have in some other countries where these prevention measures have not been put in place, even lower intensity earthquakes, you can have thousands of people dying and a lot of building collapsing and so on. So this illustrates perfectly how, with the intelligence, we can do whatever is possible, a lot of things to reduce the effect of these natural disasters. Okay, and this is also something which can, how to say, help for this uncontrollable pain. At least we can mitigate the effect. Now, where the evil has a cause. It is not from God. God is infinitely merciful and good, so the pain cannot come from him. And in fact, the origin of the evil is a consequence of the fact that God has given to the human humankind, the free will. And as per definition, when you are free to do or not to do something, you are free to do something good or something bad. It is your choice. It is a choice of each one. And it's exactly because of this freedom we have that we are free to select the good, but also free to select the evil. Okay, and the evil is coming exactly from this. It's a consequence of the free will of the human. If we could only, how to say, with our free will, select good things, it would not be the real free will. If we really have the free will, by definition, we are free to select one or the other. Okay, and that is where it comes from, basically. And this, combined with the understanding of this conformity of the natural laws, is then helping us using the intelligence to understand the consequences, the natural consequences where we do something wrong. It's a cause which is giving an effect, and this effect we are feeling it, how to say, in ourselves through exactly the pain. And this is how we learn what is in harmony with the laws of nature and not, because the pain or the evil is often a stimulating factor for our own evolution. Okay. And also we can give very simple example. When you see these terrible wars who happened in the 20th centuries here in Europe, the two world wars. The first one was terrible. Millions of people died and so on. The second one was even also very, I would say, worse. Maybe not so many people died, but in terms of ideology, it was really also very terrible. And what was the consequence of this? It was necessary in the how to say, where it was, how to say, the leader of the culture and of the organization and social system, that such scandals as told by Jesus were happening, in order to awake the consciousness of the European people, so that the people do what is necessary to say, okay, now it's enough, we don't want this type of things anymore, let's put in place some measures to prevent this as much as possible. And this gave them the European Union, and you see the relationship between, for instance, France and Germany is really good since the end of the Second World War, whilst it was since 1870 and then 1914 and 1839, terrible relationship. And this is now since the end of the war, so more than 70 years passed, and it's still in force. And I'm living here close to the boundary of Germany, and really, I mean, there is absolutely no, how to say, rivalry anymore. So this explains how the pain can then help us in our own evolution, which is unavoidable, as we have seen in the small video at the beginning, and also as you read, Stevan, from Leon Denis' quote. What also needs to be understood is the notion of the knowledge of the laws of nature, which means that the notion of what is good and what is evil is also progressing along the time together with our intelligence. You see, again, 50 years ago or 60 years ago, it was a social status and good. Everybody was smoking cigarettes and so on. But what happened? It was something which was not really in harmony with the laws of nature. These people who smoked, but they got cancer, they got some diseases and so on. Then the science progressed and has determined what are the factors leading to that. And now it's very clear. I mean, it's written on the when you buy cigars or cigarettes, it's written smoking kills or things like that. So nobody can have the ignorance of that anymore, albeit in the past we had. So it's another example of how we can understand better what is good and what is evil. And this is also changing our responsibility. If we do something wrong without knowing that we are doing something wrong, we of course have lower responsibility than when we do something wrong, knowing that it is wrong. This means using our free will in the wrong direction. And this also, through the law of cause and effects, is leading to everyone learning by experience, by the pain, what to do and what not to do. And that is then one of the most biggest stimulating factor to the human evolution. Well, I could talk a lot about this. We could talk also about the instinct and intelligence. So the instinct is the animals. Nothing is wrong in the animals. The instinct is really something which is not, a consequence of a reflection. So it's something coming naturally, spontaneously, and which generally helps in order to the conservation of the different animals and so on. For instance, when they feel threatened, they just run away to save their life. This is typically the instinct. But as long in the humans, the low evolved humans are still with a lot of instincts. But when the intelligence rises of the human, then little by little, the intelligence is substituting the instinct. And that is then exactly when this free will appears and when the human is free from selecting good or evil. So it's just to conclude, maybe we need to have to work for the evolution through the knowledge, knowing better this law of natures, but also at the same time to put our behaviors, in harmony with these laws of nature. These two things are independent. You have the intellectual evolution, which is generally going very quickly, but then you have also the moral evolution, which is always a little bit behind, or often, maybe not always, but a little bit behind. And the people who are doing more evil in the world are the ones which are intelligent but morally low evolved. And these ones are using their intelligence to do evil, to dominate, to kill, to earn money and whatever, to give, to follow their selfishness and pride, to look for satisfaction, even jeopardizing their neighbors and so on. And that is typically the example, the situation where the evil is the strongest, and that we should really, everyone work in order to avoid it. I will stop here because otherwise there could be a lot of things more to say. Again, it's our free will, which we need really to devolve in order that we spontaneously, voluntarily, consciently are focusing on doing good as an habit, as something which comes naturally out of us, and then ban also all these other things like selfishness and pride, which are pushing us in the opposite direction. And that is one of the main purposes of Spiritism or modern spiritualism.
Great, my friend. Thank you. It's wonderful to get your insights.
Charles is
very sharp. Yeah. Yes. So now I will go to London, and
I go to me.
Let's try to southeast London.
Southwest London.
Southwest. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to southwest London.
Richmond.
More precisely to Wimbledon.
Putney.
Okay. My dear, by the way, I just need to say here, good night to Antonio Braghini, Luis Grasso, Bruce put some comments here, Charles. Evil is only the absence of good. In that definition, it literally is not non-existence.
As well, yes.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, evil can be considered as absence of good. It's a way to see it clearly.
Yeah. And Maya in Sanskrit and Hindi define the perfect, perhaps. Fortunately, I'm not know this, but and I hope also she could resolve the problem. She was not hearing us, but I didn't identify any problems with the other user, so I think this is limited to her laptop. Okay, my dear Silvia, I think you got some time to refresh, to think about. And in the book What is Spiritism, chapter 3, precisely on item 129, Kardec affirms that God did not create the evil, but he established laws. And these laws are good. The evil just exists at the point we deviate from these laws. And we have many ways to allow us to go back to these laws and get back on track, let's say. Can we saying that? Can we assume that, or can we understand that reincarnation is one of God's mercy towards ourselves?
Okay. Is that the question?
Yeah.
In this question that you were saying, and the point you made about the laws is just when we go against the laws, the natural laws, and how the wonderful explanation that Charles had before, because of our free will, sometimes we choose the wrong, and that's when we choose wrong is when we evil comes into the world and bad things come into the world because we choose the wrong things. But also those laws is everywhere. And if you remember the question in the Spirit's book, I think it's 206 621, and they say, where is the laws of God written? And the answer is in your conscience. So we choose wrong because, we make the poor choices in life because the laws are there. We know, we have knowledge of them. We are born already knowing this thing. So I think it's very good to ponder on these things, because one of the things that we do wrong because we choose to do it, and it's very easy, and it's being practiced in many religions, and ourselves finding excuses that, because I was the influence of someone, because I was in this group of people who were doing something wrong, so that's why I did it. And we tend to always project into other people the responsibility, and I think that that's one of the most important things in Spiritism, because we learn to take responsibility for our own acts. Of course, there are influences. We know that there are spiritual influences very heavily weigh on us, and also there are other, but ultimately it's our own choice, and I think that's why we have to be responsible for ourselves. Having said that, the question that you go to about reincarnation being something given by God, a gift of God, and most importantly, it is definitely it's the way for which we spiritually progress, and it's also, besides being a gift, I personally think is a blessing, because if we didn't have this opportunity to readdress all the wrongs of the past, all the times throughout our existences that we made mistakes. We asked, we chose the wrong things. We chose power instead of helping. We chose to be, brutal in battle. It's always been, so he carried with us. So what reincarnation does for us, this gift of God, is that we can readdress all the wrong choices that we have made in the past, and is the way for us to go towards the future, is how we ourselves build our future, our spiritual enlightenment. Because I think if you saw the beginning, one of the girls was saying about that all of us would be enlightened people. And it's true. We are created to be angels. We are created to be superior spirits. We are created to be spirits of light, because the light of God exists within each and every one of us. And I always have this image, it's like this huge diamond that's found. Unless you're an expert, you wouldn't recognize it. So, but then, when it starts being polished, and eventually you have the light within. And I think, how can we, diamonds, they use diamonds to polish diamonds. But us, we need other people to help us. They are diamonds that will polish us, because it's only through exchange with other people that we are polished, that we are changed. And I think Charles made the point about the pain. And I'm always reminded of something that Aldous Huxley said in one paper that he wrote, that 10% of the pain that we have in our lives is consequence of being human. Is part of the human condition, and 90% of it is self-imposed. And I think sometimes it's quite difficult, because having a life, having been to Earth, we will have lessons to learn. We will go through many difficulties. We were talking before about being made redundant. It's a bit of a shock, but it happens. There is a loss of relationship, or you find out someone is not well physically. They go into different battles. And we all have our battles to go through them. And it's difficult, but it's all part of the condition of being human, of part of it. That's what gives us empathy for other people's suffering and for the difficulties. It's this sort of, in a way, it's almost like creates an affection. And when we reincarnate, we live too many different experiences. We are born as men, or born as women, or we are poor. Sometimes we are very rich. Sometimes we're very intelligent. Sometimes we are not so intelligent. We have mental problems that we cannot, we have physical disabilities. We are unable to see or speak, or whatever. So we're always we are going different races in different countries, in many, many different. So in going through all these experiences in many different lives that we have, is how we learn about culture, is how we learn empathy, is how we learn to love, is how we learn to live with each other. Because with all the experiences, we can, if we see someone going through a difficult path, we know how they feel. That makes us more empathic, and will help us to understand other people's point of view, and be more moderate in our actions, be more tolerant and more understanding. This is all achieved through reincarnation, through these many experiences that we grow, to the many lives that we have. So this is God actually giving to us the opportunity. I always feel that it is very important thing to readdress the wrongs we've done. We can change, we can be better. And also, sometimes I find, especially when we start, mostly in spirituality, we start seeing things in a more spiritual way. We want to be perfect immediately. We all wanted to be Jesus or Mohammed or Buddha, and we forget ourselves. But we are human beings. We have failures, we have difficulties, we have many things that still not very good on us, and we are not going to be angels overnight. It's a process of work, and we have to work for it. We have to make an effort. The tendency sometimes would be to think that a hermit that would live in the top of a mountain, beautiful green trees, lovely sky, and they live there by themselves. They don't talk to anyone. They are not touched by the problems of the world. They are going to be pure. And we learn in Spiritism that a person like this wastes their incarnation, because it's only through the exchange, the coming together with other people, of them challenging us, because it's very good. Say, for instance, in a group like us, that we more or less have the same ideas, we love each other, through the screen we send a lot of love and tenderness, and we are so happy to be together. And even though we are far away from one another, just looking at the screen, but we do feel this energy of love and sympathy that comes towards us. But then, if we are in a situation where someone is quite rude to us, you're in a tube and someone is breathing on you, and they don't have their mask anymore, because now you're not going to prison if you don't wear a mask. And then you're very worried that someone is breathing on you with this COVID still going. And then you say, I'm sorry, you might turn it to the other side and breathe somewhere else. And they get very angry. And how is our attitude towards that person? When you say something and someone is rude, or when you do some kindness to someone and they don't even say thank you and just go away, and is those things how we behave? Things will happen. Life is dynamic, it moves. Today we are well, but tomorrow we have to face difficulties. And I think one thing we have to remember ourselves as well is that we have difficulties, and most of them we asked for. That's not God granting you all these difficulties. We asked for. So we have only ourselves to blame, really. And it's how we react to the bad things that happen to us. Am I going to be positive about this? Am I going to be able to see that something that it's fearful, it's threatening, it's brings you insecurity? How am I going to react to this? I deal with this. So if we are able to be positive, if we are able to deal with something, yes, it's wrong, and I can do this, but I can do no more. Reach out to someone to help you. I think it's especially nowadays we feel very isolated. We don't talk to one another. We don't like to bother other people because we think they are going through problems themselves. So we keep it thing. And that's why there's so much mental health and so much problems going on, because we don't want to open up, because we are afraid of hurting people or getting problems. No, ask for help. Ask for God's help. Prayer is the most powerful tool we have. And we will have the strength to deal with one problem at a time and say, I make mistakes because I'm human. And it doesn't matter. Even if I make a mistake, I'm still going to be loved. Someone still will love me. And I remember once having a situation that, even if it absolutely no one, not a single person in this planet loves me, I am absolutely certain that Jesus does. He loves me, whatever, and this certainty give you this strength. And I think we learn those things through the gift of reincarnation, the opportunity that we'll be able to be better next time. Everything that we learn now, it's with us. We will not lose it. When, like the girl at the beginning said, we're not going back ever. What we've learned, we learned, and we go forward and we build this learning. So, it might be that someone who's very intellectual will choose in the next life to come in a life that you're going to work in a field. and they're going to use their intelligence work in the field. They're going to learn a different thing. And this will enrich them, because all the different experiences enriches our soul. And that's what the purpose of God for us in reincarnation, to the point that we have learned enough, that we can understand enough, that we can see each and every other person, no matter how hard it is, as a brother and sister. And I think the example that Jesus gave, when the world had gone mad, absolutely destroying him, he said, "Forgive, Father, they do not know what they do." And this is something that we eventually, we can reach that. Have pity, have, mercy to someone who's trying to attack us, because it's something we learn. And whereas before we would hit back, which is, I always used to think that, someone hits you in the face, you slap back. I always thought, that thing that Jesus said, you thought, oh no. But honestly, it's much harder to turn the other cheek than to hit back. And it's all through the gift of reincarnation that we learn those things. And I think another, just to come to an end here, one thing that we have to understand is that reincarnation now, it's being studies being done. There is a fantastic book by Dr. Desio Yandoli about reincarnation as a biological law. So not only it's a gift of God, but it's a biological law. So it's completely irrelevant of belief, of religion, of whether you like it or not. It's like, you believe in God. God exists. If you believe or not, it's irrelevant. And it's the same thing with reincarnation. We reincarnate, whether we believe it, whether our religion allows us to believe in it, is irrelevant. It's a biological law. And this will be part of the natural laws of God. So, I think this is very important as well, because it's coming out of that part of, you believe in it, or do you believe in it? And then it's like something that Jung said once, when somebody asked him about, do you believe in God? He said, no, I don't believe in God. I know he exists. And I think it's the same thing with reincarnation. Whether we believe or not, it exists. And it's a biological law, will be part of the natural laws of God, and irrelevant of anything. And it's always an opportunity, we are being granted the grace of being a better person. And I think this is the most important things, and one of the most important learning that we have in Spiritism. Thank you, sorry. Thanks.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we do have a question here. Let me put the question. It's from Dina. Hello, everybody. If God has not created evil, who did it? Thank you. Dina, I would go back to my first introduction here for Silvia's explanation about reincarnation, and in which I will read, I look at word by word, I will read for you what Kardec wrote about evil in the book What is Spiritism, chapter 3, item 129. God did not create evil, but established laws. And these laws are always good because God is supremely good. Those who obeyed them faithfully would be perfectly happy. But since spirits have free will, they do not always obey them. Evil is the result of their breaking these laws. This is my 2 cents, guys. So, to you now, guys. No. So, Charles, you want to add something?
No, it's just perfect. I mean, I would have read the same, but so so basically the answer is the evil is coming from human, from men, from women, not from God.
Yeah, and I think what I just read come up with the question from Guilherme, what is evil? So
it's again, it all what is not in harmony with the laws of nature.
yes,
That is
exactly. And our free will deviate us from this law of nature, causes pain. So it's a consequence. So good. Okay, let's stay still in London, and I want to say good night to Faye and to Guilherme, who just joined us. So, dear Elsa, in the book, The Gospel of Chico Xavier, written by Carlos Bacelli, in the item 23, we have no time to read the conversation here, but in that passage in particular, Chico, he explained the sentence, outside charity, there is no salvation. And he explains that Emmanuel used to say, salvation, what means salvation? Salvation of what? No? So, and Emmanuel says, is salvation from, salvation stands for reparation, restoration, and remaking. When we say, oh, that person was saved for what? Saved for stop doing what you're doing, what you did in order to be saved, to go and do good to the others. Also, he says, we will not be saved from the complications and problems created by ourselves to proceed in peace. Serving each other is the construction of happiness we desire. So we are the artifice that put us in problems, and we are the only ones who can save ourselves. Based on this, my dear, the question to you is salvation only in Jesus Christ? What will happen to those brothers and sisters that they are not Christians, because we are just 3% of the world who are Christians? All the great majority are not Christians.
So your question is?
My question is the only salvation is Christ?
Okay, so we can come back a little bit to think about the video that we watched at the beginning of our life today. So we saw in the video in the beginning, tolerance, they said acceptance, no difference. We can do our best for the improvement of humanity as an individual and as a collective. So I took from the book Prolegomena, the Spirit's book, Prolegomena, in the beginning, when he said, the vanity of some individuals who think they know everything and want to explain everything in their own way will give rise to dissenting opinions. However, all who will have the grand principle of Jesus in mind will be united in the same sentiment of love of the good and will be bound by a fraternal tie that will embrace the entire world. Jesus, for us, is the highest standard of moral perfection to which humankind may aspire on earth. God offers him as the most perfect model, and Silvia pointed that, and his teachings is the purest expression of God's law, because he was animated by the divine spirit and was the purest being that has ever walked the earth. If some of those who claimed to teach God's law to humans have sometimes led them astray with erroneous principles. It is because they allowed themselves to be dominated by strong earthly sentiments, and because they confused the laws regulating the conditions of the life of the soul, with those regulating the life of the body. So you said that 30% are Christians in the world, but Jesus didn't come only for the Palestine or the Christians there. Even he didn't say that he was Christians. Christians was created after his departure, return to the spiritual world. He sent before him Socrates, Plato, that he teach us moral teachings. So we can say that only the moral teachings bring us the freedom, bring us the comfort, and the governor of our planet, Jesus Christ, brought to us before his incarnation other good men's good teachings, as this wise man was sent by Jesus. They belong to the Jesus companions, workers that were involved in our planet since the beginning, the creation. So, thinking about that, when we read in the introduction of the Spirit book, all teachings from Socrates, Plato, so near, similar to Jesus' teachings, I, Elsa, can say that Socrates and Plato brought the lessons as an example, and Jesus brought the lessons of love and forgiveness never done before. Never done before. Religion, no religion, atheist, other philosophies, Spiritism is in all of them, because Jesus and Spiritism, for me, are the laws of love, charity, freedom. Everything is encompasses in our Spiritist philosophy that bring to us this freedom of thoughts, freedom to accept everyone from other religions, because we are not a religion. We are a so important, so smart philosophy that help everyone into their lives, going to evolving every day, because depending on our action, we react one way or another, bring us uncomfortable things later on, or comfort later on, depend of what our decision, our free will, as well pointed before. A free will is everything. We can create our hell or our heaven, depending on us, only on us. If you have a family that sometimes the lady is a Catholic or evangelical or Muslim, whatever, and husband is totally atheist, but probably he could be a very nice person, a humanist person, help other people, even if he doesn't believe in afterlife, okay? But living in a good way, respecting each other. If he thinks that there's no life after death, no problem. But the action that he's doing now towards poor, doing goodness, charity, that means a lot, more than words, more than say, okay, I'm a Catholic, I'm evangelical, I'm doing this and that as a bossy person. The most important thing is to be humble, to understand that only love, but love in a different way, not the love of the possession, love of freedom of love to help everyone, everywhere. And as the beautiful video said today, we are all together, we evolve together, we are human beings that on our way to evolve towards stars. We can do that for us. Okay, I will stop here. I have more things here, but it's too much. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. Yeah, Nancy wrote to us, Jesus, Modern Guide of Humanity.
Yes, question 625. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So it's important for us to bear in mind we are under control of our life. It's up to us. Nobody. We like to blame someone, but at the end, we are the ones responsible for everything happens to us, and
Yeah.
we
But
need to.
we have to train how to be a good person in our families. It's the first laboratory of life. First laboratory.
Yeah. And how many people they say I'm Spiritist, I'm Christian, I am Catholic, I'm Buddhist, but they treat everybody else nicely. At home, it's a disaster.
But also, what I think is important that Spiritism encompasses everyone from other religions, because in our Spiritist Center here, we have people from the three background religions, and we study Kardec, we study philosophy in a beautiful way, understanding that we have to be a good person. We have to open our eyes, not see the problem in other people, but see if the problem starts with me and be a good person. Try to be humble and understand that I can make mistakes. I can correct my mistakes. Yeah? Mistakes is evil. We can less evil.
Yeah.
Actually, I heard something very, very interesting today. A friend of mine, her mother-in-law died in June, and she was a really nice person, everything, but she never believed in God. She didn't believe in God. And my friend always prayed a lot for her because, when she was very ill and dying, she was very elderly as well. She prayed because she thought, if her spirit is loose or something. And she was telling me that her mother-in-law, she had a dream, her mother-in-law, about a week or so ago. And her mother-in-law said to her, do you remember I used to say God doesn't exist, but I came to tell you he does. God exists. And it was so lovely, I thought, because as an understanding that she felt she had to come and say, you're right, God does exist and he's there. And I think the points you made, Elsa, was very important because one point that Jesus himself, like he never called himself Christian, this comes. And I always remember the point he says, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, we went in the kingdom of God, but those who do the will of my Father who is in heaven. So even if a person, as you mentioned, is an atheist, but he's a good human person, he helps people, he probably will get into that narrow door a lot faster than quite, some other people. So humility above all is important. And the laws, basically you can resume everything Jesus said in saying, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. I don't see any other difference. All religions have the same basic things, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Mr. Kempf, to wrap up here.
Yes, Jesus was really someone exceptional who came on earth. But again, he was not the only one. He's part of maybe leading a team of a lot of other good spirits who came in every country, every culture, every region around the world. And basically, as you told, saying the same thing. This law of love and explaining the law of nature, explaining also this good and evil, the moral principles. And this is what is uniting, I would say, the humanity. And it is far stronger. We should put much more focus on that than on the things which are dividing, which are the differences which most of the time have been introduced by humankind and not. I just take very simple example. Jesus never told that needs to have a pope or we need to build big churches and to pray inside the churches. He never teached anything of that. All these things, these external forms of practice, have been introduced by humankind. And that is also one of the basics of the Spiritist philosophy. Everything is in the thought, in the use of the will for the good, and that is basically the purpose of our life. Using our will to become better persons, to focus more on what is good, what is in harmony of the law of nature. And this can be done by everyone, everywhere, independent of any belief he may have, whether he's even Spiritist or not. The Spiritism is only bringing a rational understanding to this basic principle.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. And let's put the comment here. Nice comment from Dina here. She said, in my humble opinion, one doesn't need to be necessarily Christian, as long as one works to improve themselves morally, doing good, forgiving and forgetting by following Jesus' teachings to become better people through various reincarnations. That is just one God embracing our religions and creeds. Perfect. Resume everything. Thank you. You made our life easier today, Dina. Thank you very much.
As I said, our group, there's 3 different backgrounds. And if people that has no background at all in religion, atheist, they can be sometimes better person than a religious person.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go to our announcements here, and we can wrap up for today. So let me put my screen. Okay. So next week we will talk about how can I do my inner transformation. Okay. And this is on the 20th of October at 9 p.m. in London, 10 p.m. in France, 11 p.m. in Lithuania, and 5 p.m., I think 5 p.m. in Brazil. Okay, so every 2 weeks we do have conversations on mediumship. It's not this Thursday. The following Thursday, it's not this Tuesday. The following Tuesday, we will have these 2 wonderful guys, Guilherme Dias and Rafael Caldas, talking about mediumship. So it starts on Tuesday, every other Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. London time. Also, we will have on the 6th of November, our dear Daniel Stiegel, and he will talk about Leon Denis, A New Perspective on Pain. So this is a series that we are broadcasting at beginning of every month since January, and we will wrap up at the end of December with Charles. So also by the end of November 20th and 21st, we will have, I think it's the 3rd edition of the Spiritism X, and this version is 2021. And the topic of this year is understanding our multidimensional journey. Okay, you need to be registered. You can go to spiritismx2021.eventbrite.co.uk. Also in November, at beginning of November, 6th of November, we will have our group, the group Sembradores de Luz, is an international spiritist youth group. So if you have your children, teenagers, this group it's a very good source for you to share with your, let's say, children, about the Spiritism teachings, and they are doing a wonderful work, and I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it. So it's on the 6th of November, from 3 to 5 in Brazil time, 7 to 9 o'clock in Sweden, which is 8 o'clock to 6 to 8 here in Ireland. And this is going to be, they do have different languages. So we will have in English, we will have this in Spanish, and we will have this in Portuguese as well. Okay, so there is no problem with understanding here. Also, the Kardec group, they are supporting 2 charities in Brazil. One is in Salvador, Group of Espírita Sheila, and the other one, Instituto Multirão in Brazil. Please, if you want to help, just go to www.kardec.org.uk, stroke high five, and you can help with your donation. Also, Kardec group, they have their podcast, Insightful Speaking, and is available on all the platforms, podcast platforms. And that's it. That's it for today. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your patience. Appreciate your participation. I wish you all a wonderful evening. Islam, my Irish friends, and that's it.
So good to speak to
Bye,
you.
guys.
God bless everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye
good
bye.
week.
See you next
Have a
week.
blessed week. See you. Have a blessed week.